product manager is so much more than just like a fancy title.
You mentioned about it's a typical product manager response. That's almost like as a consultant, and we go, it depends. Like that's our standard response, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, Mark, for everyone out there, could you just tell us, what do you do, man?
Hey, everyone. My name is Mark. So I'm a product manager at Playground XYZ. And so we're a hyper-growth ad tech startup that really plays in like the attention measurement and optimization space. And so we've kind of built our world's first AI ML model that really allows us to understand how long a person is looking at an ad, which is already changing the game in terms of digital marketing and advertising.
Did you always have in mind, I want to be a product manager, or how did your educational background sort of work?
Yeah, great question. I guess I didn't always, I didn't come from a traditional like product management background, like Infosys or something like that. So I actually studied a Bachelor of Electrical Engineering, so completely left field. But I did a couple of electrical engineering internships and realized like I wasn't super passionate about the industry, and I always had a keen eye for business and a bit more on the like team building and growing projects and building products. So straight out of uni, I did an internship at Commonwealth Bank, CBA, in the technology division, and I guess that's where I kind of fell in love with the whole building technology and for finance products. And so I rolled off in the graduate program as business analyst. In the business analyst role, I've learned a lot of the key skills like requirements gathering, user stories, writing great user stories, running workshops, and being able to solve problems through data. But I always had a passion for, building things and building great products. I guess that probably came from my engineering background. So I then became a Scrum Master in that role in the projects team. And as a Scrum Master, you're able to work with different teams, being able to ensure that the cadence, the rhythm, and you're able to build these products. And so I was able to get a little bit of a taste into product delivery. And there was an opportunity that came across my lap where someone was going on leave, and they were looking for someone to step in, be like a pseudo product manager in a way, just for a couple of months. And that was the opportunity. I just put my hand up and just let's go. And that was where I, really fell in love with the whole product management world.
That's awesome, man. It almost sounds fortuitous, right? Like everything lined up, and like it is like, so BA, Scrum Master, and then like product manager. It was almost like that your skill set just was very, very transferable. It just led right into that role. For everyone watching, and I'm curious as well, right? So if I'm interested in becoming a product manager or like sort of a product owner, what's the sort of day in the life of a product manager, right? Like, so are these really meetings based? What does that sort of look like for you?
Yeah, great question. I guess that as a product manager, like no 2 days are the same. Especially in a scale up or a startup, you're often called to wear many hats, and it depends on where the problem is at or the initiative. Some days you could be testing, writing up user stories, or doing customer interviews. But if I could I'll probably break it down to like 3 key areas. So I guess majority of my time, say 50 or 60% of my time will be spent around like product delivery. And that's really around transforming that concept and that vision into product backlog items or increments and user stories. And a lot of it is spent with the team, with the Scrum team, development team. And our teams are cross-functional. So you have QAs, you have designers, and you have developers. And that involves like sprint planning, our daily stand-ups, removing blockers, making decisions, ticket management, and also aligning releases in terms of what items and things you're going to be shipping. There is a fair bit of meetings, I will say, as a PM. Majority of my time will be 9 to 4:30 maybe meetings, and then real work gets done from 4:30 to 7. But it's all about making sure the team has everything they need to keep on going, keep on chugging along. Just it's part of the role. And a lot of it is also meetings with like other stakeholders. So ensuring that you are connecting and communicating the vision, ensuring everyone is aligned across the entire organization, like with sales, marketing, and ops, and all the stakeholders, whatever project you may have. And also a bit of it is in documentation. The second part would be around product discovery. So that's really around maybe about 30% of my time would be in product discovery. And so that's really around like the how of what we're going to solve. So learning, owning, and analyzing the problem space. A lot of it is requirements gathering, user story mapping, workshops with the team, and team problem solving. As a PM alone, you're not going to be, you're always going to try and bring in the team when you're trying to solve a problem. No one person can solve this problem. And it's always a great way to build that shared understanding. A lot of solution designing, product design, tech leads, and really analyzing or performing analysis to make these decisions. So you have everything ready for product delivery. And the last part, a big part of as a PM role is product strategy. And so I spent a quarter of my time, 20 to 30%, which is really in product strategy, which is really around getting to the why of the problem. So setting the product vision, the product strategy, which problems are we trying to solve and why, and also even finding new problems, opportunities that really solve like a business or a customer need. And also a bit of it is like prioritizing what next, because you may have 10 billion types of problems to solve, but what's the most high impact, high value problem? Because there's never a shortage of problems in the industry. But also a big part of that role, a part of that space is also building that domain and customer knowledge and business knowledge. So, talking to our customers, feedback, and really looking at analyzing performance, looking at reporting and how we're going. And some of like the key metrics is like how are we actually moving the needle as part of our initiative? Like, are we growing revenue, monthly active users, and seeing, are we making a difference? Yeah. And also, I guess a little bit of the role is part of the role as a PM would be building that team culture and product culture. So a lot of it is indirectly, you won't have like these direct reports, but you're always building in that team culture and always like catching up with the team, the concerns, and also building and sharing that knowledge across the organization. So yeah, it's a bit of a snapshot into the day in the life.
It sounds awesome already, this whole role. And for example, I'm keen on getting into the product management role, but I'm not really sure where to start off with, right? So are there sort of tips that you can give to, either myself, a graduate, or just anyone out there who's interested in, what should they do in order to get a kickstart into being a product manager?
Yeah, absolutely. I was definitely in that position before. Actually, I didn't even know that PM was a proper like a path that I could go in. And so like I would probably say, well, the first thing would be understand, this is such a PM answer, but understand your why. So find out why you want to be a product manager, like what excites you and gets you out of bed. A product manager is so much more than just like a fancy title. And so almost product manage your own career or the skills you need in order to become a product manager. So first off, find your why, your purpose, why you want to become a product manager, and then think about the how. So what's your strategy? What are the certain skills that you need to uplift or to pick up in order for you to apply or to be even considered for a product management kind of role, and have a kind of a plan around like normal development planning. So finding out like these skills where you need to work on and have like a certain end dates and work slowly towards them. Following on that, our second tip would be start building up the skills now. Like put your hand up, especially if you're in an existing Scrum team, put your hand up for additional tasks, like similar to what I did. Sometimes there'll be opportunities you never know that existed, and just put your hand up, give it a go. Even talking to your product manager or product owner right now, they will always have a job that they didn't have time to do. And if you can show that you can, do that job, you're already kind of picking up those PM kind of skills, and makes it easy to transition. Also, there are a lot of courses out there, podcasts, the product podcasts, and also there's a couple of good videos on YouTube and great books. Like Marty Cagan's a great guy to look up as well, about which really drill down to the core concepts, fundamental ideas of product management. Even like starting a side hustle and startups. Getting involved in startups on the weekend, like being able to, like when we hire product managers, we mainly look for the ability, have they displayed those skills in the past or the previous roles? Because if you think about product management, especially in Sydney, there aren't that many like associate PM or grad PM programs out there. I think Atlassian have one, and I think maybe Google, they have one. But most of the companies, there's no associate PM or entryways to get into a product management role. And so majority of the PMs I've worked with, they've either ex-engineers, they're BAs or Scrum Masters, come from sales or marketing, and they've had kind of prior experience in the industry. And so they're able to transition and leverage those skills to go into that industry. So yeah, we're really looking at skills and experience and build that up now. So it makes it easier to apply. And then the last tip would be around your willingness to learn. As a PM, this job is lifelong learning, and we always, whenever I interview candidates, it's always hiring for attitude, not aptitude. We won't ever have a candidate who fits 100% of all the boxes, right? But it's showing that ability, especially as a PM, to grow those skills and thinking about the customer, the business, and being able to problem solve on their feet and be comfortable with being uncomfortable. So a lot of your problems, if you ask as a product manager, is how do you deal with this ambiguity? Like there's no clear way forward. No one's dealt with this before. What's your strategy? What's your direction? What's your plan? And being able to deliver on that. Yeah. And we can, and just be able to coach those PM skills.
That's awesome. You know, when you mentioned about it's a typical product manager response, that's almost like as a consultant, and we go, it depends. Like that's our standard response, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But
Yeah.
as difficult as it is to answer the question, it really does depend because everyone's different, right? And like you
Yeah.
mentioned, those skill sets that you're meant to develop, you know, you plan for yourself, and you know there aren't those like graduate or associate roles at the beginning, right? So how would you get there, right? Like, I think you mentioned, you know, you start off as a BA potentially, and then you can maybe work your way around to learning and pick up those skills from someone. So I think having that shadowing and mentoring is probably another great way of, you know, just doing that, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. Finding great product mentors, and yeah. And on that point, though, I think it's good that we don't have like a bachelor of product management yet. Contrary to popular belief, I think the thing that makes product management so unique is that anyone from any industry can go into product management, and it really depends on like how you think and how you approach problems. Yeah.
I'm very cautious, right? Say I'm risk adverse, and I'm like, oh, I don't know, man. Product owner, manager might not be my type of thing, and you know, there could be misconceptions around it. Like, for example, you know, being a product owner and a service designer, technically the same thing. Is like that could be one misconception or myth. You know, have you faced those similar challenges where someone's like, oh, you know, they're exactly the same type of thing, or product manager is just a project manager? Are those myths out there that you can clarify for everyone?
Oh man, tell me about it. Yeah, it doesn't stop. Especially when you look at the kind of roles right now on job boards and job descriptions, it's all over the place. You see like a product owner, product manager, project manager. I think one of the big misconceptions is like a product manager is not the same as a product owner, and they're not the same or not equal to a project manager. And so it's really, when you're looking at these jobs, like be very clear with the job description. So like a product owner is essentially like a backlog, kind of a backlog administrator, and it's a concept that comes from like Scrum. In the Scrum framework, we have a product owner is really focused on delivering value from the team, or really maximizing the value of the development team. Whereas a product manager does that, but also solves like customer or business problems. And so you think more about the long-term strategic thinking, owning the vision, the roadmap, the strategy, and looks at like growth drivers. Whereas a project manager, it's kind of a bit of an old waterfall kind of role. And in most tech companies, you won't see many project managers, and it's kind of being phased out. But I guess, think about timesheets, Gantt charts, bit of the admin kind of stuff. Yeah, and you don't really see them as often. So I'd probably caution and tell people to think very carefully or analyze very carefully the JD that they're applying for. Also, probably another one on that would be like, I guess, another misconception or something that's not as well understood is that PMs, like product management, means different things in different companies. Yeah, and depends on the size of the company, also the product maturity of a company. So like PM at a really big company, and this is not a blanket statement, but depending on the company, there's a lot more hierarchy. There's a lot more decision makers, and you might be a product manager as a title, but your role might be a bit more PO style, where you're a bit further away from the decision points due to the number of layers, a bit more red tape to jump over. Whereas at a smaller company or a startup, you're more truer to the PM definition, where you're really going out to solve these customer problems, finding these opportunities, and it's more the CEO, head of product will give you complete autonomy to drive that roadmap.
You may have already answered this question, and it's the controversial question, right? About, you know, whether you think your role is going to be relevant in 5 to 10 years. So you really sort of mentioned how, you know, the role has changed over time. You know, there's a project manager, which then moves into sort of phasing out into like, you know, a combined of a product owner / product manager, wider, bigger role, right? That plays in fact. Now, your honest opinion, unbiased if you can, do you think this role is still going to be relevant in like 5 to 10 years or so?
Yeah. I mean, thinking about it, the like product management as a craft is still relatively new. I mean, there were product managers before, but like it's always constantly evolving. And I think as long as you have engineers writing code or you're building software, PM will always be relevant. Where I do see the industry moving is it will be a lot more specialized. And so you're already starting to see like digital PMs, you're starting to see data PMs. And I don't think we're going to go down like crypto Web3 PMs, because like it'll constantly evolve and you get a little more specialized on one route. And also it depends on like how the whole like tech society and community kind of perceives product management moving forward. Like very few companies this is getting a bit controversial now, but like very few companies are doing product management, I guess, in the truest form. You have like Amazon, Spotify, Facebook, Google who are doing it great, but especially in Sydney, the PM culture is still relatively new, and it shifts between types of organizations, whether it's banks, startups, you're working in like digital companies, and so it really depends. But it's going to be an exciting way in the future. I think that it will just evolve and get. There'll always be a need for PMs in one way, shape, or form, unless something dramatically changes. Yeah.
No, controversial is good, man.
Yeah.
That's good. I think, since it's relatively new, I don't think it's, in my humble opinion as well, is that, it's probably going to stay. It definitely is going to evolve because it is new, right? Like everyone's still trying to understand, how do we understand that role and responsibility of a PM, right? And exactly right. It's different for different size companies, the culture that's within the company as well. So depends what the company really wants out of you.
That's right. Yeah.
I thought it sort of ended up here, but if you've got any other like final remarks on things you want to tell anyone, maybe as a fresh graduate who may be considering this, or also people who haven't even heard about this product manager role, any sort of final words that you want to give to everyone?
Final words would be, even as a grad or even someone who's thinking about product management, probably just give it a go. The worst thing you could do is not try, and it's either you'll do it and find out you don't like it, or you'll fall in love with product management. And that's whichever way it goes, it's only an advantage. You'll know what you don't like, or you actually really do like it. Yeah. So
fair enough, fair point. I think that probably applies to a lot of things, doesn't it? Like when it's more about finding out what you don't like than what you actually do like, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome. Now, I want to say thanks so much for your time, Mark. I really appreciate it. And it really gave me a deeper insight into like, what a product manager actually is, rather than a project manager. Almost screwed that up. Thanks so much. And for everyone watching, if you've got any questions, make sure you hit up Mark's. I'll put our descriptions and links and everything into the description below, so you can reach out to him as well. And all the podcasts and stuff, always recommendations, I'm going to grab from him and I'll chuck it into the description as well. Like, comment, subscribe if you really enjoyed it. We're going to continue on this path to finding out other different careers in different industries. And if you've got anything that you want to really ask, make sure you reach out to myself or Mark. Thank you so much, Mark. And I really hope we'll speak real soon.
Thanks for having me, man.